It's not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here. It's true. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated.
Our problem has been, as black people, we've always been concerned about white America, never about us. And what we've always thought is that white America equal the same interest as us. That is not true. We must now be concerned.
I can't be a pessimist because I'm alive. To be a pessimist means that you have agreed that human life is an academic matter. So I'm forced to be an optimist. I'm forced to believe that we can survive whatever we must survive.
I might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary.
Tuned in to the End of the Bench media that's bold, black, and beautiful. Thank you. This is Brian H. B. Williams. This is the End of the Bench media, and welcome aboard for another trip down into Blacklandia. I shouldn't say down memory lane. It's into Blacklandia, Black Talklandia. It's an interesting day. It is a very interesting day, and as I do every week, I want to thank my parents. Without my parents, there is no me. I say this every week. Without them, Dolores and John, there is no Brian. Without Brian, there is no End of the Bench. So thank you to both my parents and everybody connected to them socially, biologically, or any other shape, form, or fashion. Thank you to them, and thank you for all of the people that support me. It is important that you do so because I want to share information. The name of the program is called Build and Destroy, where I attempt to build a community and destroy the lies and the propaganda that surround our community. And I am going to cover a myriad of things today. Today's episode is called Politics as Usual. And basically, I'm going to talk about police brutality. I'm going to talk about our actions in accordance to police brutality. I'm going to talk about what we need to do as a community. And I am going to also touch briefly on this indictment by anybody who knows me knows I have been immersed in hip hop culture for at a minimum of 40 years, which is probably longer than that, but I was 14 years old when I first got my little music sets and things of that nature. So I'll say 40 years now. I want to cover a few things, but before I do that, I have to pay some bills. This episode, as all episodes, are brought to you by Style Guides. www.styleguides.com, not urbanly spelled, traditionally spelled, styleguides.com, and purchase your urban gear. Everyone loves fashion, but not everyone has style. That is the moniker of the Style Guides. And thank you to the owners of Style Guides for being supportive and being backing the program. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, with that being said, I want to welcome people to the background listeners, and I want to welcome the background listeners and the people who are in the chat room. Thank you. First and foremost, I want to thank my man, DJ Mad Nas, aka Anthony. You know, I'm not gonna just call you Nas, so get over it, buddy. And I want you guys to also know that this is being simulcast on Isaac Hayes III's fanbase.com. It is a platform for people much like myself that they can earn. And I'm also on my personal website. You see it on screen, www.thaendofdabench.com. That is the end of the bench. The is Chicago.com. Thank you. And I want to welcome Rady Kev, DJ Mad Nice. Thank you guys for being a part of the program. And anybody else who taps in, hit that like, hit that share, tell a friend to tap in, tune in, and be a part of the show. As always, it's not a dissertation. It can be a conversation. I want to start off by saying rest in peace to Frankie Beverly, and to rest in peace to Jackson family, Tito Jackson, and condolences to the Jackson family. These are people who we were raised around, we were raised with, and they seem like they're members of our family. Rest in power to both of them, and peace and blessings to their families. Where do I start? I want to start off with this. It's time to engage with police organizations. What are propaganda-wise known as anti-policing organizations. They're not anti-policing organizations. They are organizations to reel in what we know as a rogue system of criminal justice. I call it a rogue system of criminal justice because I don't I know for sure this was not designed with us in mind. I've mentioned on this program on several occasions, a lot of people, and it's not a knock at my buddy, I'm just using them as a reference point, like my man Raider Kev, they're gun enthusiasts. And we get caught up in our hobbies and embrace them, and then we may not be fully, I'm not using Raider Kev as that, we may not be fully informed about the history of our hobbies. Football is one of mine, hip hop is one of mine, and things of that nature. The history is something I engage in on a regular basis. So I don't know everything about history, and other people don't know everything about their hobbies. But the reason I'm bringing this up is simply this. The Second Amendment was created because indigenous people are known as indigenous people and African enslaved people were sick and tired. They knew at some point those people would get sick and tired of being under the thumb and the boot of the European settlers, and they potentially would rise up. Hence the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. And basically it's right to bear arms and create militias to fight off the natives and the blacks. That's just what it was. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because there was no 911 because the phone hadn't been invented, and there was no police force because the country was brand new. This country was not founded with a police force in mind. These people were initially called slave catchers. Now, if you think I hate the police, which most people do, I have a story. If you know me, you know I have a story past with the police, and it's not very pretty. But I also have some very close people in my life who are officers, who are enforcers of said law. So I do understand the concept of it's just a few bad actors. I don't think it's just a few bad actors. I think people like who's a friend of the show, Dan Allen, and other people that I know, I think they're the few good apples, because this is all I'm saying is this. The reason I say that is this. In my community, the Black community, if I lose my damn mind and go commit a crime, you, as other members of my community, are labeled with that. But everybody else in the United States of America, when a white guy, as we saw, go into a school or into a theater or into a nightclub and shoot up the place, or into a Walmart and shoot up the place, white America is not charged with that crime. So if you're brazen enough, or if you're brazen would be the word. If you're brazen enough to include my entire community in the crime that I commit, well, I'm going to include the entire police community besides the ones that I know. If I'm wrong, so what? So be it. It is what it is, as the young people say, and as I say, it is what it is. Sucks to be you. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is, you had Sister Massey, Sister Bland, Sister, what's her name, in Kentucky, I could never, Breonna Taylor. These women were assassinated. These women were murdered, and these women were treated the way that they want to be treated, and the law has stepped up at a bare minimum. Both of them, John and I think it's Dallas area, or at least Texas. I'm speaking broad ambiguous terms when it comes to that. I'm not sure if it was Dallas or Houston, but Bolton John is sitting in his house eating a bowl of ice cream, and an officer is able to come in his house and assassinate him and say she thought she was in the wrong house. Well, which is trash, which is pure trash. But this is what I'm talking about. As a matter of fact, I'm going to incorporate our brother Sean Combs in the charges today. A lot of people are going, at least I personally believe, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm a person who understands that the people at the top control what we see and what we won't see. They control details of what we see and what we won't see, and they're attempting to shape our minds in different directions. I think the Sean Combs thing was a test run. They want to see, hey, let's see if they buck. If they buck, then we can get our boy Donald Trump off. If they don't want Sean Combs to get arrested, then we can get our boy off. Nah, we want if he's guilty of the freak off parties and the lubes and forcing people into sex acts and kidnapping. But what we also have to understand, kidnapping is a funny thing. You do understand, if you're in the midst of an argument with your significant other, you don't live together, and she say, I'm about to go, and you say, no, you're not, you're going to talk to me, you are officially kidnapped her. So what we need to do is sit back, as we're doing, shout out to my community, and watch. And then to the people who are all but cheering us on, I'm glad y'all doing that, because guess what? We are forcing the criminal justice to do their jobs. But we're also going to sit back and wait. And if our brother is rightfully convicted, y'all not gonna see the black community stand back and say man, because we're not deviants. We're not who you've created, the image that you've created of us. We're law-abiding, upright, God-fearing people. And we want people who commit crimes to be punished at the full extent of the law. Our problem with the criminal justice system is simple and plain. Stop putting the spotlight on us and acting as if we're the only people committing crimes. If Sean Combs is guilty of the crimes that he's been accused of, God bless his children, God bless his mother, and God bless anybody who loves him. He's going to be gone for a very long time. And if he's not, let him come home. And guess what? Here's the sad part. When you're accused of the things that Brother Combs have been accused of, you'll never get your name back. And quite simply, that may be the goal. We're going to destroy your name because you had the cojones to step up and challenge us with that lawsuit, in accordance to what our brother Luther Campbell said. I don't know if any of this stuff is true, but what I do know is true is this. The police departments throughout the United States of America, by and large, in my personal opinion, are out of control. We are being shot in the middle of the street of Oklahoma. We're getting company to our homes in Springfield, Illinois. You're getting shot 40-something times on the west side of Chicago. You're getting beat to sleep. You being attacked, personal attacks. Myself, I've been struck by a police officer. I have been picked up in my community and taken to a rival gang neighborhood and dropped off there and let know that I was from the other side. But guess what? I've never been affiliated, and I was a person who had free reign to go wherever we wanted to go. So I wasn't in danger, but I had other friends who were beaten relentlessly. So here's the situation. At some point, we will have to organize and go to some anti-police organizations. We're going to have to start doing that. You know, the organizations that you hear defund the police, and you take the stand. A lot of us take the stand. Well, why would you want less police? Well, some instances don't need police officers. Some instances we need counselors. You know, when you watch a television show or a movie or the Samuel Jackson movie, Negotiator, they didn't just run up in the building and show to everybody. They didn't show up and say, we're killing everybody, and that's just what's going down. You had what was called a negotiator. You need crisis counselors. And guess what? There's no way in hell you need $5 billion to run a police department if you are putting the finances in the right places. You know, like funding schools properly, making the two high schools that I attended, one of them being Lincoln Park High School and where I graduated from, Westinghouse Vocational High School, making them equal. You know, because at Lincoln Park you had modern dance, you had a law program, you had a law program, modern dance, technology, and a host of other things. You didn't have those classes at Westinghouse. You had 4 different foreign languages. We didn't know. We only had one. And guess what? Guess who graduated from high school and did not have 1 year of foreign language, even though Dr. Ruth Love in 1984, my freshman year, said you couldn't graduate without it. And I did. See, these are the things when you offer the same opportunities, when it is a even playing field, then we won't have as many police. You know why? Because the police aren't needed at that point, because the need of the police is to secure and protect the property of the rich. That's what it's called, serve and protect the property of the rich. But if it's to serve and protect the people and become peacemakers, they're known as peacemakers. You won't escalate and shoot a woman in the house and then have goofballs on TV and on the internet defending a 160-pound, 130-pound woman against a 6'4", 220-pound man who's walking towards her. I've never walked towards danger in my life. Not ever. If I thought I was in danger, I stopped and backed up. Now, if I thought backing up wasn't going to be the answer, then I went forward. But if you were afraid that you were going to get hit with whatever was in that boiling pot, guess what you would have done? You would have had the ability to get out of the way. But with that, you don't have to. What are your thoughts on the shooting spotter technology, if it's effective. You know what? I don't know if it is effective, but it's awful strange that the technology that my man Big Illinois has just referenced. Thank you for being a part of the show. Thank you. And I really appreciate the question that you asked. I wish more people would ask. And I got my man Sheldon in the building too. T Sheldon in the building. Thank you, T. Thank you for the support. I really appreciate that. I'm not sure, because the thing is it effective? And then if it is effective, the two people who have been used with the spotter technology, we don't even know what happened with them. Well, the one person that I'm thinking of, we know that they found him, but the conversation that me and you and I have had, how did he get there? These are people who are trained. If I have been in a downtown Chicago area, actually in the building I work in currently, years and years ago, and they shut down everything within a quarter mile, north, south, east, and west, because then President George W. Bush wanted to go to this restaurant called Lou Mitchell. They had everything within a quarter mile locked down. So how is it that they allow somebody to get on the top of a roof with a sniper rifle and get to that point? I don't know, but if I had more information on that, Big Illinois, I'll be able to give you a more valid answer. The best thing I can do is be smart enough to say, I don't know. Because if I start pontificating and bellowing about something I don't know, guess what? Somebody's going to come on here later and say, that dude H-Rap is a damn fool. He just be shooting off his mouth. So great question. I don't have an answer for it. And hopefully at some point I will. So the technology, the thought process behind the technology is perfect. But just like facial recognition and other technologies, it's imperfect, so we won't know until we, you know what? We won't know until we mess around and find out. How about that? Thank you for the question. Please, if you have another question, please continue to put them in. Again, I love doing this, but I would much rather have a conversation than a dissertation. But back to the point, we need to get into these programs that are talking about defunding the police and funding entities in which it could prevent crime. You don't prevent crime with the presence of police officers. The aforementioned Big Illinois, we lived in a high crime area that we were heavily policed, and it didn't slow down one shooting. It didn't slow down one robbery. It didn't slow down any violence, any gang violence. As a matter of fact, during the period that we lived there, it was probably the most dangerous neighborhood in the United States of America. But deterrent of crime is infusion of finances and programs that will develop people and put them in a position to whereas crime isn't an option, isn't their first option. It will always be an option. And we're not going to do away with crime. Well, I don't live in utopia or some euphoric area. Whereas if you put it out, if you put people in these great situations, nobody would choose bad. Well, people going to choose bad. That's just the way the thing works. That's why we must do everything we can on the front end to deter people from crime, giving them opportunities, creating hope, creating an environment that they will have access to information. Information provides opportunity. Opportunity creates hope. Hope makes you not take that left turn into crime, and then makes you shake that in, and it'll potentially put you in a position to where crime isn't an option. But this is what we're lacking. It does not take $5 billion of any city budget to any city in the United States. It's $5 billion is more money than some states make. $5 billion is more money than its countries in this world that are functioning under $5 billion. How about this? If we are allocating funds properly, how is it that Texas, the state of Texas, is the 5th largest economy on earth? So with that being said, are we properly allocating funds throughout the United States to deter people from crime? No, we're not, because crime is big business. And then you put the police in there, and that's big business. And then we have the wrong leadership in play. So then they write into former mayor of the city of Chicago. They write into the city budget enough money. So we know we have road cops. We know they're going to do the wrong thing. So this is the money in the budget set aside. So when people sue us, we can pay them out of the budget. Is it proactive? It could be perceived as that, but how about this? First and foremost, psyche vows for all officers, background checks for all officers, more than 6 weeks of training for all officers. Understand who you're putting in, who you're putting in each neighborhood. You need to get people and officers in communities that identify with that community and not be looking at them as they're subhuman. People who are not living through the propagandized view that you portrayed on every radio station, every TV station, every TV show, every streaming services of Black people in the United States of America. Maybe that's what we need to be allocating our funds, because it's easy to say, see, H-Rap, you should have started selling dope and you wouldn't have went to jail and then your life wouldn't be ruined. But it's a lot. It's easy to say that, but why don't we take a step back and ask one question? What's the why behind the why? Why did you commit crime? But why? What made that an option? How was that available to you? And why are police officers so comfortable shooting brown people, Black people in the United States of America? I consider myself brown. That's why I said brown. I'm not with the Black and brown people. I'm not doing that. But I just want to ask people, have you ever wondered what's the why behind the why? Why is it that if you got a Black woman saying, smoking her own cigarette in her own car, she ends up dead? Why are you comfortable doing that? If you have a Black man in Oklahoma with his hands above his head and that is universally known as surrender, why is it okay for her to be shot in that work right now? Why is Philando Castile dead in New Orleans? Why? We can go all over these United States of America. Mike Brown's 10-year anniversary, August, I think it's August 9th, a few days after my birthday. Why is he dead? And why are these police officers able to walk the streets every day and go to other entities and gain employment, which I will address as well? See, we have people like Stephen A. Smith on television arguing with people saying, see, you need to go to your car. See, we have conversations in the Black community. And when you're in your car, you need to act a specific way. Why are we so comfortable acquiescing to terror? Because those are terrorist acts. If you are not comfortable driving down the street in your vehicle, and you suspect that you might die anytime you interact with a civil servant, that's a problem. Yes, do you need to have a conversation with your children? Your goal is to get home. Of course, at all times. At all times, the goal is to get home and get home safely. But why is it that in 2006, in August, ironically, in February, I was leaving Big Illinois' house. The affirmation, Big Illinois seems to be a reoccurring theme on this program today. And I want to thank the people who came in, my sister and my main man, Jumper Brother. Thank you for the support. Hit that like, hit that share, keep tapping in and hit that like and comment. Thank you. But what I want you to understand is this. I was leaving Big Illinois house in February of 2006. I didn't like the citation I got, so I said, I ain't paying it until it's time for me to renew. I ended up getting an additional citation, going to court, and the judge threw it out. He said, well, I'm going to throw it out if you go pay for that other citation and get your license back. I acquiesced, got paid the citation, got my license back. So for the first time, and it was August of that year, for the first time in 7 months, I'm driving legally when I can't be accosted. Got insurance, registration, and a brand new reinstated, well, actually a brand new updated license, because it was to get my license expired anyway. And the police officer turned on his lights to go around me, and I clenched. I was nervous. I shouldn't be living like that. You shouldn't be living like that. And we get up and pay these people taxes. We need to get involved. This is part of the program that I've been talking about for the longest. See, it's easy to say we need to vote for Vice President Harris, because this lady, the President of the United States, has absolutely, positively nothing to do with how the state of Illinois is being run. Do you understand that? Do you understand that the President of the United States is only in control of the military? That's their only duty. That's their specific duty. They sign bills into law and things of that nature. But do you understand the governor of your state has more power than the President of the United States? If you doubt what I'm saying, this is what I want you to understand. In the state of Illinois, the use, sale, and trade of marijuana is legal. But guess what? The people who are putting this marijuana in these, making money off dispensaries here in the state of Illinois, can't put it in a traditional bank because those banks are insured federally, the FDIC, and they are not going to insure that money because that money it is illegal to sell marijuana in the United States of America. That's how important it is that you need to know what's going on in your city, in your county, and in your state. The governor is more powerful than the president. So if we are in a situation to whereas everybody is talking about the president of the United States and nobody's talking about your governor, nobody's talking about your state senators, nobody's talking about the 420 people, 434 people in the House of Representatives and your local governments, then you're being sold a bill of goods that are no good to you. I see my man Tommy said something. He left the scripture. He said, Zechariah, it's that 11:5 King James Version. Who's most prosperous and slay them and hold themselves not guilty, and they will then be blessed blessed be the Lord. I am rich. I am my own shepherd, and pity them not. Thank you, Brother Shelton. It is always good for somebody to inject the word of God into anything that I'm doing because I am a believer in the word of God. Thank you, Brother Shelton. And what he's saying, what that scripture is saying is you protect yourself, you protect the people around you, and God will bless you. And at that point, you don't need everybody else. And how do you protect yourself in the United States of America? The way you protect yourself in the United States of America is using the laws and all the structure to work for you. We must get involved. If you are sick of the police, what you do is you push for police reform in your city council. Thank you, Doris. It's always good to see you. Most definitely. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Me and Doris have known each other for 40 years now. Thank you. It's always good to have people that are in your circle to support you, but we must use the laws and the lay of the land to protect ourselves. If you're tired of police brutality, then you need to be at city council. I mean, you know what? You need to be bugging the hell out of Danny. If you live on the west side of Chicago, Danny K. Davis, LaShawn K. Ford, I mean, Danny Davis, LaShawn K. Ford, and others who are in Deep Raiders in the building. Good to see you, my brother. Other people who are in government and elected officials. You have time. You do. Again, download the 5 Calls app, and it will connect you with phone numbers for DC phone numbers for your U.S. senators and their local numbers, local representatives, the mayor's office, city council, and so forth and so on. What people need to realize is this: if it's a pothole in your street, you don't call the president of the United States. You don't even call the mayor of your city. You call the state representative, or what we call alderman here in Chicago, and get this pothole fixed. Don't drive around for years. I have literally seen potholes in this city and just drove around for years and nobody ever said anything. And we keep complaining, man, they'll never fix the street, but you don't ever complain. You don't ever complain. It's cool to have a conversation with your friends. And if all of y'all have the same complaint, then you need to get the phone number and everybody make that phone call, and then somebody be out there to repair your street. As a matter of fact, the way I feel on Madison Street this Saturday, I need to be calling somebody because I bust my butt. But that's neither here nor there. It was the most funny moment in my whole life. But hey, you know, it is what it is. That has nothing to do with what you got. But I'm being on the serious side. We must understand how these processes work. When a police officer harass you, you need to get his name. You need to get, if he gives you a citation or not, you need to get his name, his badge number, and then you go and make a complaint. And if nothing is done, you make another complaint. You can make a complaint about the complaint. And it seems like an exercise in futility, but that's why other communities get things done. You wonder why over 200 schools were closed here in the city of Chicago, and most of those schools were not only closed in our neighborhoods. Because we don't complain. We complain to each other. We don't complain up. We must come together, galvanize, mobilize, and then organize movements that'll get us in the situation that we want to be in. It's amazing how people complain about things, but they never complain to the right people. And then you say, well, the system ain't going to work for me. You know, they just lie. Well, guess what? When your friends lie to you, you leave them alone. If you had a business and your employees are lying to you, you fire them. But you are in the business. You're in the business of making sure your community is safe. And that business, how you get people fired is not vote for them and vote for somebody else. And you create opportunities for other people. And that's what you're doing. You put the right person in play until you get the results that you want. You know, a lot of people say, well, I don't have any children. So that's why I don't. I got my man Disco Dag in the building. It's good to see you. West House in the building hard this evening. But what we have to do is stop complaining and they not going to do anything, because guess what? You know why they not going to do anything? Because you ain't asking them to do anything. People do what you inspect, not what you expect. Especially politicians. Do politicians lie? That's part of their job to lie. But you know what? It's part of your job as a citizen of Chicago to make this is Chicago, or my man D Great in LA, or my man Knox, DJ Mad Knox, he in Jersey. It's part of your job to make the complaint directly to the people. Look, people don't understand how much power they have. Even in something that's, it's something as simple as controlling the police officer in your community. There's certain fire departments. I know firemen. And I know people who are trying to get people from my community to be firemen. And it's certain firehouses in this city that in Black communities that are all Black people. So you know what? More than likely, those people will be quicker to get to your home and save your belongings and life. I'm not saying anybody hates us. I'm not saying anything is against us. But guess what? When you know it's somebody in the house that looks like you might put a little extra sauce on to do what you have to do. And that's what we need to start doing. We have to stop complaining about what's happening to us and start putting into action plans to get things put in this proper place. Again, when you have people like Vice President Harris running for president and didn't mention anything about state senators, didn't mention anything about the 223 members of Congress that she needs to get anything enacted. Ain't nobody talking about the Senate. Ain't nobody talking about anything. Like I said last week, if we consistently, we're going to have to vote this year, and then we're going to put things in action the day after. Don't, well, she's not going to get sworn in until January. Well, if we start letting people know we creating game plans in September, the day after the election in November, we can start making phone calls, and then we can stay on those phone calls once a week. Just like, hey, if you go to church once a week, you go to Bible study once a week, you go to work every day, you watch your favorite television shows, and you do your favorite activities, whatever you're doing, well, make that one of your activities. We're going to miss the beginning of the Housewives, and we're going to pause it, or your favorite TV show, or that football game, or however you entertain yourself, that book you read. And what we're going to do is make a phone call and say, I don't like this. I have done it. I've told this story several times on this program. I left for work early. Thank God I did that day, because it was a marathon in my neighborhood. Had I not left, I would not have been able to get to work. And I lied. And I called the state representative. I can't think of his name right now. He had I'll think of his name in a second. He had an office near my home. And I said, hey, man, I was late for work because y'all didn't put up notifications. As a matter of fact, I got suspended. I might be fired. I understand those people called me every day until they ensured that I did not get terminated and was finding jobs for me. If they would do that after one phone call, one angry phone call, I didn't use profanity. I didn't yell and scream. I just said, this is horrible. I voted for you. You need to be doing better than this. And they bugged me. So just imagine if 4 or 500,000 people who live on the West Side start bugging Danny Davis, bugging LaShawn K. Ford, bugging the city councilman. And guess what? All of a sudden, things are getting improved. And for my people who live here in Chicago and the people who live throughout the country, your state representatives, and this is a quote from a state representative, my job is to put money in your pocket to create a business. That's part of his job. We don't know these things. And that's another reason we come together for programs like this, so we can share, so I can share information, so I could put you in a position so you don't have to get up and go to work. What we have to do is put ourselves in a community building mentality, nationwide, border to border, coast to coast, and then you will stop looking for a paycheck and you'll start looking for profit. And when you start looking for profit, that means you have an investment. And when you have an investment, you take care of that investment at all costs. You ain't gonna have a bunch of people standing outside your store because they might come in and try to take something out of your store or take you out. So guess what? And then you got police officers patrolling, and that means that person that's standing on the corner potentially plotting to do something to you, he's going to be less likely to do that. And you also be able to enrich young people by hiring those young people, just like the communities that we grew up in, just like the things that we did, just like the way we want to live. But we have to organize to get there. Shout out to my sister, Poetic Sense. It's good to see you. What she said, my man Jungle Brother says, speaking of that, getting fired, the Chippendales, what's that saying? The Chippendales didn't honor him 2 weeks notice, looking for a labor lawyer. I was applying for those tips. Okay. Jungle Brother, up to the foolishness as he always is. Shout out to my man Jungle Brother. It's always good to see you, man. Thanks for the levity. And I appreciate that as well. It doesn't have to be me sitting here preaching and pontificating for an hour. We can have some fun with this as well as take the information that I choose to ship out to you. Now, what I want to do is show you. I'm going to show you this video. And in this video, you see the tyranny and the pressure we used to live under. But when we lived under this tyranny and pressure, guess what? We were forced together by hatred and hate monger and laws. And those laws allowed them. And as of 1865, the Civil Rights Act, signed by Lyndon Baines Johnson, pressured by the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., that stops. But is that a positive or negative? Because now we are expanding and giving away our money to other people. So maybe, just maybe, if we self-segregate, like here in Chinatown, when everything is in their language and their menus, and if you don't know what you won't eat there. And then, or like in Greektown, same thing. And like in other towns, Little Korea and other places in the city of Chicago, where people are taking advantage of their cultural heritage and inviting their people in. Maybe we need to stop, pay attention, and look and do those things for us, and stop being worried about, hey, I have the right to do this. All you're using your rights to do is make other people rich. Don't make other people eat off your community. Why don't you eat off your community, present opportunities for your friend, family member, cousin, or neighbor who's made the wrong decision and ended up in the house, in the big house. And then he gets out and can't find a job. But if we create a community in which we can hire people, those are not our problems anymore. Here's a video. I'll be back in about 6 minutes. HRB, Build and Destroy. I'll be right back.
Hey there, history enthusiasts. Welcome back to Aggressive Intelligence. Today, we're diving into a chapter of American history that's as chilling as it is eye-opening. Ever heard of sundown towns? Yeah, it's not the kind of town square where folks gather for sundown yoga. No. These were racially segregated towns that came with a dark twist. Picture this: the early to mid-20th century in the United States. While jazz music and flapper dresses were defining the era, a sinister trend was unfolding in many corners of the country. Sundown towns, also known as sunset towns, were communities where African Americans were not welcome after dark. It was a systematic form of racial segregation that stained the American landscape. From the 1890s through the 1960s, sundown towns became disturbingly commonplace. Imagine a whole community shutting its doors to people of color once the sun dipped below the horizon. It's like something out of a horror movie, right? Unfortunately, it was a horrifying reality for many Black Americans during this period. Now let's talk about what could happen if you were a Black person caught in a sundown town after dark. It wasn't just a stern look or an uncomfortable vibe. It was life-threatening. Violence, intimidation, and sometimes even death awaited those who dared to defy the unspoken rules of racial exclusion. There were cases of Black individuals being harassed, beaten, or worse, simply for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Take the tragic case of Carol Jenkins in 1968, who was stabbed to death with a screwdriver while selling encyclopedias door-to-door in Martinsville, Indiana, a sundown town. It sends shivers down your spine just thinking about it. By the way, Martinsville is still considered a sundown town to this day. So how did Black people navigate this perilous landscape? Well, they had to become experts in evasion. Imagine having to plan your road trips like a military operation just to ensure your safety. One method of evasion was meticulous route planning. Families would consult word-of-mouth information, often passed down through generations, to map out routes that circumvented these hostile towns after sunset. It was a literal game of life and death, with the stakes unimaginably high. The Green Book, our unsung hero, played a pivotal role in this evasion strategy. Victor Hugo Green's ingenious creation was more than just a directory, it was a lifeline. The guide helped Black travelers plot routes that avoided sundown towns and directed them to welcoming establishments. Imagine the relief of finding a safe haven after a long, tense drive. But it wasn't just about driving. Public transportation posed its own set of challenges. Bus and train stations in sundown towns were often off limits after dark. Imagine arriving at a station only to be met with hostile glares or worse. Travel became a chess game, where every move had to be calculated to avoid danger. The fear of accidentally finding oneself in a sundown town was palpable. Families had to be vigilant, relying on whatever information they could gather to stay one step ahead of the invisible boundaries that could mean life or death. The simple act of traveling became an act of defiance against a deeply rooted discriminatory system. For Black individuals, the road to freedom was not just metaphorical, it was a literal journey fraught with peril. It's a testament to the resilience and strength of those who face these challenges head-on, determined to reclaim their right to move freely through their own country. Let's take a moment to appreciate Victor Hugo Green, the visionary behind the Green Book. A Harlem-based postal carrier, Green understood the struggles faced by Black travelers in a racially hostile America. His guide wasn't just about finding a decent motel. It was about staying alive in a country that deemed your existence a threat. The Green Book played a vital role in helping Black Americans navigate a landscape fraught with danger. It was more than just a travel guide. It was a beacon of hope, providing a roadmap to safety in a hostile world. Now you might be thinking, surely this was just a handful of isolated incidents, right? Wrong. The issue of sundown towns was not confined to a few isolated pockets. It was a nationwide problem. From the bustling cities to the quiet suburbs, racial exclusion was a national epidemic, deeply embedded in the very fabric of American society. The scale of the problem is staggering. In the 20th century, it's estimated that thousands of towns and communities across the United States operated as sundown towns. These weren't just small, forgotten places. They were often thriving communities with schools, businesses, and churches. This was not a fringe movement. It was a widespread, systemic practice. Cities in the North, Midwest, and West were not immune to this problem. The belief in white supremacy and racial purity was not exclusive to the South, challenging the commonly held notion that segregation was solely a Southern issue. Sundown towns were not just a relic of the past. They were a reality that shaped the daily lives of Black Americans for decades. The sheer number of these towns reflects the deeply rooted racism that permeated American society during this period. Understanding the scale of the problem is crucial to grasping the magnitude of the challenge faced by Black individuals and families. It wasn't a localized issue. It was a pervasive national phenomenon that demanded a collective reckoning. But here's the kicker. Sundown towns didn't magically disappear with the civil rights movement. Shockingly, some still exist today. While the practices may not be as overt, subtle forms of discrimination persist in certain communities. It's a stark reminder that the ghosts of our past still haunt our present. The fight against racial injustice is ongoing, and understanding the history of sundown towns is a crucial step in that journey. And there you have it, folks, the unsettling history of sundown towns. It's a dark chapter in our nation's story, but one that we must confront and learn from. If you found this video informative, make sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thanks for joining us on this historical journey. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll catch you in the next video. Until then, keep history alive.
Thank you for continuing to tune in. This is Brian A. B. William on End of the Bench Media. This is Build and Destroy. As you saw, this is an ongoing situation, and they had law enforcement backing them up. You had people from municipalities and police departments supporting that sundown town thing. Believe it or not, right here in Chicago, we have sundown neighborhoods. One of them is where one of the most powerful mayors in the history, well, two of the most powerful mayors in the history of Chicago are from, they hail from, and that is Richard Daley and Richard J. Daley, his dad. These are people who control my city for the better part of my life. I'm 54 years old, and they were mayors for longer than 50 years of my life. So this is what I want you to understand. If we are allowing these people to rule us in this fashion, what we have to do is take steps. One of the steps that I would love us to take is this. If you agree with me in saying, hey, these police are out of control, and what they're doing is getting kicked down a can. Tamir Rice in Ohio, I think it's Cleveland, Ohio. Tamir Rice in Cleveland, Ohio is playing with a gun in his front yard, something that we've seen young white kids do for time immemorial. He was shot before the cop's car even stopped moving. The door was closed, and they yelled, "Put down the car, put down the gun." He jumps out of his car and shoots and kills an 11-year-old boy. When he kills this 11-year-old boy, he said he thought the young man was a threat. An 11-year-old boy has never been a threat to an adult man in the history of the world. And if you are scared, if you are that in fear of your life, get a dog. Police officer is not the job you need. You need to be at the front desk at the police department, and you need to be somewhere where you're not interacting with Black people under any circumstances. Another thing that we need to understand, two things. The first thing is this. If you want to protect our communities, maybe, just maybe, we need to look into a national database. So just like the man who, the monster who killed Tamir Rice, he got out of his car, told him to drop the gun while the car was still moving and the door was closed, as if the young man could hear through glass. And then he jumped out and shot him. That dude had been fired by 3 other police departments down the road. This is why we need to do both things. Get a national database saying, if you have been fired for something of that egregious, you need never be hired by another police department in the United States of America. Much like if you get caught stealing out of a store, or if you get caught selling drugs, you can't be a barber in Kentucky. You can't get a city. You can't ride on the back of a garbage truck here in Illinois, but you can kill someone and move down a block. You go down the road and get another job in another police station, just like the sister here, Sister Massey, who was killed by a police officer who had been fired by 3 other municipalities. The second thing I would say is to make police officers, like doctors and lawyers, force them to get insurance. If you force police officers to get insurance, what I know is insurance companies are some of the most powerful entities in these United States. I'll say it again, some of the most powerful entities in these United States. If you doubt what I'm saying, all you have to do is look into why you are forced to wear a seatbelt nationwide. It is not because the people in office love and care for you so much. They had lobbyists come in and say, look, we're tired of paying double indemnity for these fools who are not wearing seatbelts and shooting through windows, and now instead of $100,000 policy, another $200,000 policy, or even $1 million policy, we got to pay $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, $100,000 on a $50. So when you get killed in an instance like that, they stepped to the government and said, y'all better stop this, make people wear seatbelts. And guess what? The deaths went down. And you thought it's because the congressman and the senators really liked you. No, it's because the insurance company said, we ain't going to keep paying all this money. Y'all better make them do something. And what they do, they made the law that you had to wear insurance, you had to wear a seatbelt, or you will pay a penalty for making sure you don't die. Right. Now, seatbelts are beneficial and insurance is beneficial. Just like if they say, in order to be a police officer, you must have insurance. And if you have too many complaints, just like with your insurance, you get into too many accidents, guess what's going to happen? They're going to take your insurance. You go to the hospital too much, your insurance is going to drop you. That's why it used to be, if you have a pre-existing condition, now we ain't dealing with you. So make police officers do that, and you can get that done. It's like those lobbyists step to those dudes. If we as a collective Black community, nationwide, border to border, coast to coast, if we start complaining about that and present that to them, all of a sudden the insurance companies might be in on it, because they was like, oh, that's more money in our pocket. And guess who's not going to be getting shot at randomly? Because you're going to lose your job and you're not going to have a defense. And an insurance company, again, rich people don't borrow from banks, people. Rich people borrow from insurance companies, because that's where the real money is, because they got money on hand. And guess what? All of a sudden, we can walk the streets safe, we can be comfortable, and we can put ourselves in a better situation. These are the things that I need us to start considering. Let me check in here. My man said, Black folks Messiah Trump has rallies at sundown towns. Yeah. Hey, man, it is utterly amazing that my community full of people, when we come from people like Sojourner Truth, Coretta Scott King, Fannie Lou Hamer, Adam Clayton Powell, and others, we support a dude who was anti everything. Every person I said, the history, talk about sundown towns, but don't talk about the neighborhoods and Yippo and can't walk into Cabrini Green, Old Block and on 63rd Street in Chicago. 63rd on Old Block is on 63rd. It's actually 63rd through about 67th. But I get your point. Yes. Then you don't talk about that. But guess what? We're not talking about that. Salute to my man Mayhem, my brother on the forecast. Me and him do a program every Monday. Tap in with us every Monday. It's a whole lot of fun. We do a whole lot of cussing and acting the fool, cutting the fool. So tap in with us. See y'all Monday. We actually doing the movie Fight Night. It's an excellent program. I need y'all to tap into that as well. But as my man said, we're not talking about what's going on in our community. And we use this backdrop of what they know. Well, you're right. They do know. But if you're not complaining, so what? It's kind of like that person who's being mistreated. We might know they're being mistreated, but if you don't say anything, I'm not going to step in, period. That's what we need to do. We need to step up, get involved, and get into defending ourselves with the laws, as well as with weapons, as well as with intellect. And not in that order necessarily. It might be with the weapons first and keep people above us, and then we can use our brains to conform plans, and then we can use the law to protect us from that. That's what everybody else is doing again. We're not looking. That's why it makes me cringe when the aforementioned people in law enforcement and city government and elected officials, when they start talking about jobs. People, our community has to get out of this mentality of paycheck over profit. We can no longer think that way. That's why we are at the mercy of white nationalism all the time and city government at all times, because we're looking for them to pay us. And if you're looking for them to pay you, you will always not get paid what you are worth. At one point in our lives, guess what? It was the coolest thing in the world to work at X company for 30 years and get a pension, and boom, you're going to make it. But that's not the case anymore. What you do now is you work somewhere for 3 years, and then the pay grade or your position goes up, and you go over there and you work, and that's how you do it. That's how you become a 401k millionaire. People don't understand that. Now, that's if in the event that you want a job, but guess what? You can open a corner store. I've done this before. I've done the math on this before. The average corner store is making about $2,300 to $3,000 a day. $2,300 a day. Let's just say 2,300 times what 20 days in a month, because I'm not even gonna count the weekend. So 2,300 times 20. What you talking about? 46 grand a month. And guess what? Let's say 23 of that goes to the upkeep of the institution. Let's just say 25 of it. You got almost $20,000. You got $20,000 cash in your pocket, but you're looking for a job. You see what I'm saying? If you can why do you think these people come into our communities? The people from the Asian communities, whether it be Koreans or Chinese or other members of the Asian community or the Arab community, why do you think they come in there? Because you ever notice that they drive in Infinities and Lexus and Mercedes, and we riding around in Chevys? Because they understand the gold mine that the Black community presents. And then you get these big time egghead economists, these smartest guys in the room, and what do they talk about? We spend more money than anybody in the world. How is that cool? That's called consumption. You know, when I was younger, consumption was what they call diabetes, because diabetes ate you. So consumption cannot be a good thing. Why are we bragging that we giving away all our money? And we give away $1 trillion a year. Really? And that's our fighting call. That's our rally call. And we make more money and give it back to y'all better than anybody in the world. we can stop this oppression. We can stop this discrimination. We can stop this denigration. We can stop this violence against us if we stop, look around, and pay attention to what's going on. Otherwise, we will continue to get kicked in our teeth, boots on our neck, and oppressed into perpetuity. And that's just the bottom line, point blank, end of the story. Look, one of the most horrific stories, and I'm gonna put this in the chat room because I need y'all to support this movement. It's not gonna cost you a dime. It ain't gonna kill you, it ain't gonna do nothing. I just put something in the chat room. It'll pop up in a second and I'll put it on the screen. I want us to understand. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, everybody knows about the Greenwood Massacre. We call it the Black Wall Street Massacre. It's in Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's a neighborhood that was predominantly run by Black people. You had D.W. Griffith and the guys from Memphis pay people to leave Memphis, Tennessee, and go out west and help settle the West. We created a wonderful situation, and white folks came in and they lied and said some white woman was touched, as just like they did with Emmett Till, just like they did with thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of other Black men and women throughout this country. And they said, this is what we're going to do, and this is what we're going to charge them with, and they can't do anything about it. And yet, damn it, that's what happened. So it is one person still living from that massacre. She is 110 years old. She was 9 years old when this thing happened. 9 years old when this thing happened. I need us to sign this petition. I'm waiting on it to populate in my chat room. So I need you guys to click that link and tap into it and sign the petition, because the Supreme Court of that state has recently said, hey man, we ain't nothing we can do. We closing the book. But what I want you to understand is this. What I want you to understand is this, and it's not populating, and I really need it to populate, but I want you to understand is this. Merrick Garland, the top cop in the United States of America, he can fix this. He has the authority to reopen this case, because there was a case where basically they passed a law. They passed an edict saying that if you are a victim of discrimination or a violent act by white nationalists, up from 1863, January 1st, 1863, until December 31st, 1977, we're reopening cold cases, and we're going to put the FBI on top of it. Which what do the FBI do? They investigate crimes. They are not the police. They do not police the United States of America. The FBI, they are the investigative wing of the Department of Justice. And if we can get them to reopen this case, and they reopen this case, guess what happens? They reopen this case, and this lady, who literally, according to her, I heard her say this. This isn't something I read. This isn't something in media. I literally heard this woman say this for a unmitigated fact. She still sleeps sitting up because she's afraid that something will happen to her in the middle of the night and not allow her to see the next day. Can you imagine living 100 years sleeping straight up, sleeping with the inability to put your back on a bed because white nationalists decided, how are these Black people affording pianos and I can't? How do they have things that I can't have myself? That's the world she's been living in. And if we don't do something as a collective and sign this petition, you know what? It ain't populating for whatever reason in my chat room. It is called justiceforgreenwood.org. I'm going to type it in myself, justiceforgreenwood.org. It needs to be seen. I'm sure it'll come through now. I'm going to put it on the screen. I need us to tap into this. Go to that right there, justiceforgreenwood.org. Go there and just sign a petition. It's not going to cost you anything. It'll take you about 2 minutes to sign a petition and fight for this woman. Fight for the fact that it has been 100 years since y'all told us to get our own thing. Get out of our neighborhoods. Y'all created neighborhoods that we couldn't come in after dark. You know what? Why couldn't we come in the daytime? Because you wanted our money, like they say. You want our rhythm, but you don't want our blues. So Black people got together and C.W. Gurley, not D.W. Griffith. He was a wicked bastard. They sent people out west. They created an area that was flourishing. Over 8 doctors' offices. You had 3 dentists, about 10 restaurants. You had actual highfalutin restaurants, movie theaters. They even had their own airport. White people went in there and destroyed it, and they need to pay for it. Somebody needs to pay for it. The state of Oklahoma needs to pay for it, and this is why people like the people, the Heritage Foundation, and that Donald Trump supports, and the Project 2025 wants to do away with Black history. Do you understand? Your like my man Big Illinois said, your savior Donald Trump has literally said, I want to put into play a system in which if you teach Black history, we're going to defund your school. You don't want me to know my history, but you want the rest of the world to know theirs? No, we can no longer live in this situation, folks. We can no longer live like this. We must do what we have to do to be as successful as humanly possible. At the end of the day, grandmother used to say this all the time. It didn't mean anything. It meant absolutely nothing when she said it to me. But at 54 years old, it means everything. White people do what they want to do. You have to create a life, Brian, so you can do what you want to do. And at the time, I was like, I'm gonna be, as a little boy, I'm gonna be rich, Grandma. Don't worry about it. And that is still my goal. But if we can let other people walk around this country and do what they want to do, your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, nephews, cousins, and neighbors, they need to be able to do what they want to do too. You don't need to be clutching the steering wheel when the police get behind you. You don't need to be in fear at any point in your life, because we're adults and we work every day and we have pride. We don't walk around like this. We walk around like this. We keep our head up. They call us subhuman, but we're not. We're above human. We're gods. I know Keisha don't get mad at that, but hey, whatever. We are, because God is inside of us. So that makes us part of him. We don't have to kowtow and kiss ass for nobody. So make this place comfortable for your grandchildren if you don't even do it for yourself. Sign that petition, please. And continue to support me here on the End of the Bench Media and Build and Destroy. I will be back on the line more than likely, maybe later today, but definitely at some point between today and next Monday. This is HYB. This is Build and Destroy. Thank you for supporting. And do me a favor. If you came in late, wait till I get off air and call and type in something like, you suck. Even if you say you suck, it works. I need you to hit that like. I need you to hit that share. I will see you. Hit that subscribe button so you'll know every time I come on. And when you see that, I will greatly appreciate everything you do. So this is HYB, and this is the end of the show. Thank you for tuning in. And as usual, I have my man Big Mo salute us. Listen to the words of this song. It is a powerful song created by my man Big Mo. Me and him are business partners. 2 fingers, 1 word. I am HYB, and I'm out.
We lust for that cheese, we lose sleep, dreams of that cream. We killing our teens, they dying for this American dream. Them government schemes, they turning us to hustlers and fiends. We hustling trees, them politicians smuggling green. Chasing that cheese, got everybody stressed in the streets. Pardon me for speaking freely, let it breathe. Evangelists preach the congregations out of their seats. They writing them checks for tithes, now his people can't eat. She stripping for change for school, now she giving them brains. She used to that loot, she earning, now she giving them strain. He new to this game, but hungry, so he cooking his cane. He getting that paper, but then they gave him 2 to the brain. It's rules to this game, but hustlers never hustle for fame. The spirit of greed is grimy, so we struggle to change. They put us in chains to take away our African names. But if we submissive and don't resist, then who do we blame? It's all a game, man. These Europeans staking they claim, and you a victim of their game plan. You thinking they ain't, you thinking they saints. Remember all them niggas they hang? Killed our women and our children, all our leaders is slain. They gave us Obama, but that nigga was hoping for change. But Zimmerman is killing niggas and he free. Shit is crazy, babies having these babies and getting checked. But keep the child from they pop to rip his heart out his chest. Our rappers was leaders and now they in the booth in the dress. Spitting bullshit and making more but giving us less. They taking our sound and changing ours, dumbing it down. They taking our jobs and homes and they shutting us out. They taking our kids because it ain't a man in the house. They locking us down, but soon they gon' be wiping us out. They told our women they was too independent to need a man. They told our brother he was too insignificant to advance. It's all a game, man. These Europeans staking they claim. And you a victim of their game plan. You thinking they ain't. You thinking they saints. Remember all them niggas they hang. Killed our women and our children. All our leaders is slain. It's all a game.
It's not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here. It's true. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated.
Our problem has been, as black people, we've always been concerned about white America, never about us. And what we've always thought is that white America equal the same interest as us. That is not true. We must now be concerned.
I can't be a pessimist because I'm alive. To be a pessimist means that you have agreed that human life is an academic matter. So I'm forced to be an optimist. I'm forced to believe that we can survive whatever we must survive.
I might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary.
Tuned in to the End of the Bench media that's bold, black, and beautiful.